Okay. Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard for the second time beginning after Pesach 2014. This class meets in Long Meadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe, Margaret Vogel of blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contains selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. Okay, we're on page 1333 at the back of the book, and this is a continuation from the class that we had 2 weeks ago. Last week we didn't have a class. We talked about the Nazir who is not allowed to cut his hair, and that's because his hair is connected with a very high level, the level of Arich Anpin. There is no bad there, there's no klipa, and therefore the hair is all holy. The we spoke about 410 strands of hair in Arich Anpin. Whatever that means, I don't know, but we did talk about the number 410, and we will continue talking about it today. We'll do a lot of numbers. We are starting at, in the notes at number 21. Okay. Rabbi Chaim Vital will now quote teachings of the Arizal on a section of Zohar known as Sifra Ditzniusa, the book of concealment. Give me one moment. Last week was from Tamei HaMitzvahs, and this week is from Tamei HaMitzvahs. So he has a book called Sifra Ditz.
At the bottom, there's a footnote. I think it's spelled differently than you have it.
In English?
Yeah.
Yes, and so I spelled it differently.
Okay.
So the Sifra Ditzniusa is a section on Zohar, and the Arizal has a commentary on that. And Arizal himself, I don't think, wrote anything, so it must all be written by Rabbi Chaim Vital. But he has he has that, and then he quotes it here. So there are two different. So there is the original, and then the part that quotes. So he now quotes the Arizal's teachings on the section of Zohar in relation to this. Let's see. As we said in number 9 and explained in numbers 10 until 11, there are 410 hairs on the head of Arich Anpin. This is also the gematria of the word kadosh, holy, which is used in the Torah in net reference to the Nazir. This implies that the Nazir reaches the level of Arich Anpin. A lot of holiness. Okay. And one here. Okay, Alan, begin.
And the following are an excerpt from the words of my teacher, the Arizal, in his commentary on the part of the Zohar known as Sifrei Tznitzas. Without a doubt, the fact that number of hairs on the head of Arich Anpin is the same as the numerical value of the word for holy, kadosh, 410, plus the fact that it is written concerning the Nazarite that his hair must be holy. He must allow the growth of the hair of his head to grow wild, indicates that the Nazarite ascends during his period of abstinence to very sublime spiritual realm and must therefore imitate this supernal level, that is Arich Anpin, by not cutting his hair. Kadosh, 100 plus 4 plus 6 plus 300 equals 410. The fact that the numerical value of the word used to describe the behavior required of the Nazarite, holy, alludes to Arachanpin, indicates that the Nazarite manifests this level of holiness during his period of abstinence.
The word kadosh, holy, is actually mentioned twice by a Nazir. One is for the 410 hairs of Arachampin, and the second is for 410 worlds that come from the hairs of Arachampin. If I'm not mistaken, this second group of 410 exists in Ze'er Anpin. So remember, Arachampin is Keser, which is beyond Seder Hishtalshlus, beyond the process of creation.
We find in the section of the Torah dealing with the Nazarite that the word holy is mentioned twice, once corresponding to the 410 hairs in each lock of hair on the head of Arachanpin, and once corresponding to the 410 worlds that issue from each of these 410 hairs. In the original commentary of the Arizal, the word holy is said to appear twice in connection with the Nazarite. In the quotation of this commentary in Tamei HaMitzvos, holy is said to appear 3 times in connection with the Nazarite. Both versions can be supported. The word holy appears only twice in connection with the Nazarite himself, the first being in the verse just quoted, the second being in verse 8. For the entire duration of his abstinence, his body is to be considered holy to Hashem by being forbidden to come in contact with the dead. But it appears a third time in connection with the sacrifice the Nazarite must offer up at the conclusion of his period of abstinence. The priest must wave the specified portions of the sacrificed animal and its accompanying grain offering as a wave offering before Hashem. They are holy to the priest. In this paragraph, the Arizal refers to only 2 instances of the number 410. But later on, he explains why we say the word holy 3 times in succession.
Okay, 24. Sefer Yetzirah begins with a statement that there are 32 pathways of wisdom with which Hashem etched his world, known as the Lamed Beis Nesivas HaChachma. It's commonly explained that the number 32 is from the 22 letters of the Aleph phase and the 10 spheres. The Arizal says that since there are 3 states of intellect in Atzilus, there also must be 3 states of intellect in Arachampin. Similarly, since there are 32 pathways of wisdom in Atzilus, there also must be 32 pathways of wisdom in Arachampin. Most likely, in Arachampin, it's in a subtle form. Now, the 32 pathways of wisdom in Arachampin are drawn through the hairs to the hairs of Ze'er Anpin. The intellect of Ze'er Anpin then spreads through 32 pathways. It's a little unclear. It's a little unclear. This is what it seems to say. So that from there, 32 pathways in Arich Ampin, and from there through the hairs, the 410 hairs, I guess, it goes to the hairs of Ze'er Anpin.
The reason for this number 410 is as follows. Just as there are 3 lower sub-brains included within this brain, that is that of Arachanpin, so are the 32 pathways that are present in the lower brain included within it. These 32 pathways are drawn through these hairs to the hairs of Ze'er Anpin, and thus the brains of Zer Anpin spread through these 32 paths, as is taught in the part of the Zohar known as Idra Rabbah. The brain of Arachanpin consists of 3 brains, what we would call lobes of the brain. That is, Chachma, Bina, and Das of Arachanpin. Note that instead of describing the brain of Arachanpin directly, the Arizal compares it to the lower brain, that is, the brain of Zeranpin.
One moment. What that means is he starts off, he doesn't just say, he doesn't just say that there are 32 pathways in the brain. He says just like there are 3 states of intellect included within, just like we know that there are 3 states of intellect included with Arachampin because they're in Zerampin. It's just because by states of intellect, if it's in Zerampin, it must also be in the Arachampin. The same thing too with the 32 pathways. If they exist in the Zerampin, they must also exist in Arachampin. That's what he says here. Note that instead of describing the brain, that he takes it off from the Zerampin.
This is because Zeranpin is much more concrete than Arachanpin, and is therefore mirrored more fully in human physiology. Thus, the fact, for example, that the brain of Arachanpin subdivides into 3 compartments, similar to our brains, cannot necessarily be taken for granted to the same extent that it can be taken for granted that the brain of Zeranpin subdivides this way. The Arizal therefore tells us that despite its sublimity, Arachanpin, in this case, does exhibit the same structure as Zeranpin, and so on. As we have seen previously, there are 32 pathways of Chachma. This generally refers to Chachma of Asilus, or more specifically to Chachma of Zeranpin. But we see here that it applies to Chachma of Arachanpin as well. The hair growing out of the back of the head of Arachanpin extends downward to its shoulders, and through these hollow hairs, the light of Arachanpin shines into the head of Zeranpin, producing within it the 32 pathways of Chachma of Zeranpin. In the original commentary, the Arizal here refers to the Idra Rabbah in the quotation of this commentary in Tamei HaMitzvos references, in the quotation of this commentary in Tamei HaMitzvos, this reference is made to the Idra Zuta. In fact, the content relevant to this section is found in both.
Now, so we're at 32 pathways. Every lock of hair contains 32 pathways, and each pathway is comprised of 10 spheres, or a total of 320. These are 320 sparks from the 5 states of Gvura, and the 5 states of Gvura are known in the Zohar as the black candle. The final Mishnah states that Hashem will endow each tzaddik with 310 worlds. So he's going to connect, which is often quoted. He's going to connect this Mishnah of the 310 worlds, Lahanchil Ayavayesh, Yesh is Begonchi at 310, with the 320 sparks, or the 320 pathways, 32 pathways with 10 subcategories. Now, Eov speaks of Hashem's wisdom that is beyond what humans can comprehend. And he refers to Nasiv lo Yida'o Ayat, a pathway not known to the buzzard. The buzzard eats, preys on, carry-on. Thank you. Your carry-on luggage. The buzzard preys on carrion, but they can only live in a place where there is carrion. There are no humans there. There are no animals. Buzzards won't be there. So he's talking about places things that are beyond, outside of the human domain. So this is taken to mean a pathway not known to the buzzard is taken to mean that one of the 32 pathways of wisdom is unknown to humans, which leaves us with only 31 and the 310 worlds just destined for each tzaddik. Interestingly, the result does not continue now. So he's explaining about 410. And the number 410 hairs on the head of Archampin, and then the result drops it. And he doesn't continue this connection to 410. Later, he's going to make another connection based on the 32 pathways, another connection, that's it, to 410 based on 30 pathways, not this connection, not 320. So why he sticks this in there is a matter of conjecture. Okay? Go ahead.
So each of these locks of hair comprises 32 paths. Each path comprises 10 spheres, giving a total of 320. These are the 320 sparks that the black candle gives off, as mentioned in the beginning of this commentary. These sparks are the 310 worlds that the Holy One, blessed be He, will in the future bequeath to every righteous individual. There are only 310 of these worlds rather than 320, because one of the 32 paths is the path unknown even to the buzzard. So we can consider only 31 paths, which when multiplied by 10 spheres, leaves only 310 worlds. The black candle, as we have seen previously, is the Zoharic term for the 5 states of Gevura here, those of Arachanpin. We are taught in the Talmud that every righteous person will inherit 310 worlds in the world to come. We have seen that in the case of the 50 gates of Bina, the 50th highest gate is normally inaccessible. A similar phenomenon is true of the 32 pathways of Chachma. The highest path is too ineffable, too high, to even be reached by the high-flying buzzard to be normally counted. At this point in the Shar Hamere Rashbi, there is a passage explaining how the righteous actually inherit 400 worlds, which Rabbi Chaim Vital skips in the Tamei HaMitzvos and continues.
We're going to skip, and he continues with this idea. Okay, yeah, I don't know. Black Candle sounds like a name for a rock band, right? Okay. Same thing, same difference. 26. We're now going to repeat what we said back in number 10 and 11. What makes the value, which 2 weeks ago, what makes the values different in expanded spelling is how you spell the names of the letters. So in the name of 72, Havaya of 72, each of the letters is spelled with a yud. The yud starts with a yud, hey ends with a yud, vav yud in the middle, and the hey ends with a yud. Therefore, 4 letters yud is a reference to the name Havaya of 72. Now, the standard gematria of yud is 10, but for our purposes, we'll see each yud as containing 10 subcategories. Therefore, each yud is worth 100. 4 yuds equals 400. There are 10 letters in the expanded spelling of Havaya of 72. So we'll add the 10 letters to 400. Hello?
Yep, 410.
Okay. For a total of 410. It was blocked on my computer. I was trying to move it. This is also the value of Kadosh, holy, that is written by the Nazir. And we had this written in the Torah by Nazir. We had this in Numbers 10 and 11. So, as I pointed out before, the standard gematria of Havaya, of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, is 26. But we see also that it could be the gematria, which just means a numerical value. of Yud K Vav K could be 72, 63, 45, or 52. And we're going to see, it could also be, did we ever do, we must have done a iteration. 10 plus 10 plus 5 plus 10 plus 5 plus 6 plus 10 plus 5 plus 6 plus 5. I don't remember what it equals 72, I think. We're going to have another one. So here we have 410. 410 can be a gematria or a numerical representation of Yud K Vav K of Hashem's name. So there are numerous ways to find gematria. I think a couple weeks ago I called it alternative gematria. It's not the normal one. What's another word for normal? Not the ordinary gematria, but alternative ways to find value. Okay. Jim, would you like to continue?
Now, as we explained previously, we consider in this context the 72 name Chavaya in terms of its 4 defining letters. The 4 letters Yud multiplied by 10, giving 400, and then add to this 10 letters used to spell the name out, for a total of 410. This is the number of hairs in each lock, as stated above. There are 4 Yuds in the spelling out of the 72 name. So it's a Hey Yud, Vav Yud, Vav. So it'd be Hey Yud, and then it'll be Yud, Vav, Dalet. The value of the letter Yud is 10. So we consider these 4 Yuds to have 10 times 4 is 40. When we consider each to be a complete array of 10 Sifirot, sub-Sifirot, 40 times 10 is 400. And then you take the name for another 10, but it's not here.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now, in this formula, 410 is an alternative gematria of Yud K Vav K, of the Havaya of 72. Since there are 3 Havayas in Arachampin, 1 each for Chachma, Bina, and Das, we say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh in the Kedusha. Why? Because Kadosh is 410. So 410 is a value of Havaya, and there are 3 of them in Arachampin. And obviously, the line in Kedusha is taken from the vision of Yecheskel? I don't remember. Ishaya chapter 6. Okay, go ahead.
We therefore say the word holy 3 times in the liturgy, reciting the verse, Holy, holy, holy is God of hosts. For there are 3 names Havaya in the ancient one, that is in Arachampin, as mentioned previously in the commentary, each one of which adds up to the numerical value of the word holy. The prophet Isaiah's description of the throne of God, his angelic entourage, appears several times in the litany. The reason why this word holy is repeated 3 times in succession in this passage because it is describing God as manifest at the level of Arachampin. We are taught that there are 3 names Havaya manifest in the hair of Arachampin, and that since the name Havaya consists of 4 letters, each of the names Havaya is manifest there as 4 locks of hair for a total of 12 locks.
Okay, this is another explanation that I did not get into in my notes.
Okay. One name, Havaya, 4 locks, is situated on the right side of the head, corresponding to Chachma. Second name, Havaya, another 4 locks is situated on the left side of the head, corresponding to Bina. Third name, Havaya, and the final 4 locks is situated on the back of the head, corresponding to Das. Together with the overall general light of Arachampin, there are thus 13 paths of light flowing from atop the head of Arachampin.
Because each name encompasses 4 locks. So 3 Havayas makes 12. And the last sentence says, together with the overall general light of our champin is a 13th. I'm getting dirty looks over here. Together with the overall general light of our champin makes 13. Okay. Now, the minimum time for the vow of a Nazir, and the Nazir doesn't specify a time as 30 days. So if someone says, I am a Nazir for 7 days, he's a Nazir for 30 days, or she. If a person says, I'm going to be a Nazir, then it's 30 days. If he says it's 31 days, then it's 31 days. If it says it's 60 days, it's 60 days. If he says for 10 years, it's for 10 years. But if you don't specify time, or if you give a time less than 30 days, then it is for 30 days. So this is, or you give some like, I'm a Nazir as big as the house, 30 days. This is because of the 3 names Havaya and Arachampin. Get it? 30, 3, and we said before that there are 10 letters in the expanded spelling of Havaya of 72. So each name has 10 letters, and 3 names Havaya give a total of 30 letters. This is another gematria, or another numerical representation of Havaya would be 10. Okay? And Jim, go ahead.
And since these 3 names are spelled out with the 30 letters, 10 letters each, an unspecified vow to be a Nazirite is for 30 days. A person can undertake to be a Nazirite for any period of time, 30 days or more. If he specifies the duration of his vow, he's required to remain a Nazirite for the time specified. If he does not specify a specific time span, he's required to be a Nazirite for 30 days. Thus, 30 days is the fundamental unit of time associated with the Nazirite vow.
A second reason for 30 days of a Nazir. The simple gematria of Havaya is 26. I wrote simple. The ordinary gematria of Havaya is 26. Add the 4 letters, and we have 30. Now the Torah says regarding the days of abstinence of a Nazir, Kadosh Yiyeh Lashem. He shall be holy for Havaya. The pasuk actually says Kadosh Hu Lashem. But this is the way it's written in the book. And La Hashem means for Hashem, but the last word can also be read Lamed, which is 30. Lamed, 30 days, which is a gematria of Havaya, a number to represent La Hashem. 30 is equal to Havaya. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Furthermore, the numerical value of the plain name Havaya is 26. When we add to this the number 4, or its 4 constituent letters, the sum is also 30. This is alluded to in the verse, for the entire duration of his abstinence, his body is to be considered holy to God. The conclusion of which can be read, holy for 30 days, because the number is alluded to by the name Havaya. The prefix letter Lamed, translated as 2 in to God, possesses a numerical value of 30, hence the alternative translation.
Okay. In number 26, that was today, we showed one way to get to the number 410. Another way is as follows. That was the 4 yuds of yud ke vav ke of expanded spelling, plus 10 for the number of letters. But another way is as follows. There are 4 letters in Havaya. 3 names Havaya make 12 letters. Multiply 12 by the 32 pathways of wisdom for a total of 384. Add the simple gematria of Havaya, 26, for a total of 410. It works.
Yeah. Okay. Bear in mind that each of the aforementioned 32 pathways of Chachma comprises the 12 letters of these 3 names Havaya. There are thus a total of 384 channels implicit in these 32 pathways. When we add to this the numerical value of the name Havaya itself, 26, the sum is 410. We've just seen 2 ways of arriving at 410. 4 yods of the 72 name Havaya, multiplied by 10, plus 10 letters of the 72 name Havaya, 4 times 10, 400. 400 plus 10, 410. 32 pathways multiplied by the 12 letters in the 3 names Havaya manifest in the hair of Arachanpan, plus the numerical value of the name of Havaya itself. So it's 32 times 12 is 384. 384 plus 26 is 410.
Now, thank you. What I said before is that he started to talk about the 32 pathways times 10 is 320. And he never followed that through to 410. He never made the connection. So the commentary here is going to talk about that. Go ahead.
Interestingly, the deviation based on 32 pathways multiplied by 10 to be aborted after it arrives at the 310 worlds promised to each righteous individual in the world to come. In fact, the intervening passage from the commentary on Sephira Sini Uta that is omitted from Tameh HaMitzvot, the Arizal discusses and derives Kabbalistically the Zohar statement that there are in fact 400 worlds of desire that await the righteous in the world to come. Nevertheless, the exposition of the 32 pathways does not figure in the second
does
figure in the second deviation in the number 410. And this is perhaps why the apparent digression into the implications of this number is relevant.
Okay, before you continue. So in other words, he said it over there just because he's going to now talk about the 32 pathways times 12 for 3 names Havaya, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, 4 letters. For 3 names makes 12. 12 times 32 plus the 26, did we say? Plus 26. Okay. Now, before you read the next part, as you said earlier, the Arizal never completed the connection between the 32 pathways times 10 and 410. Okay. Rabbi Wisniewski adds a fascinating explanation of the line that says, Isha kshera oisa v'tzain baila. A proper woman performs the will of her husband. Hey, we like that one, don't we? Guys, in Kabbalistic terms, this means that action in the material world should be guided by ideals. He doesn't say it here. I guess he spoke so much about the male side and the female side, the male role, what it represents. I think he said the male role is like more abstract and more like abstract, idealistic. You look for the ideals, and the female role is more to bring it's in the concrete, to bring it into reality. I usually don't follow those explanations so closely. So based on that, I wrote that in Kabbalistic terms, this means that action in the material world should be guided by ideals. However, and it's represented in general, very general terms by men and women. However, the phrase can also be read, a proper woman determines the will of her husband, or she makes her husband's will. It's possible for actions in this world, which is the feminine side, are so in tune with divinity that they can dictate and guide the ideals, the male side. The tables are turned and the woman becomes dominant. In this case, the word keshera proper can be read like Sarah. A woman who is like Sarah can guide her husband or makes her husband's will, determines her husband's will. Okay, so you can read that inside in any case.
In any case, the point of the exercise is to prove, as stated at the outset, the connection between Nazarite and Erhampan. We presented earlier the supposition that the Nazarite vow is intended to rectify a misuse of feminine energy, as alluded to by the sage's statement that anyone who sees a suspected adulteress, the sota, being subjected to her trial by ordeal should undertake to abstain. like a Nazarite, from wine. If this is correct, then the association of the Nazarite with Eric Anfin would indicate proper rectification of this feminine energy. As we know, Eric Anfin corresponds to the faculty of will in the soul. We are told by the sages that a proper woman is one that performs the will of her husband. At face value, this means that feminine energy should always be subject to the guiding influence of masculine energy, since, as we have seen often, the feminine propensity to manifest divinity in the material world can, if left unchecked, lead to excessive and even spiritually and thence physically destructive involvement with materiality. This is true both in male and female relationships and in the inner relationships between male and female sides of both men and women. However, we are also taught the word for one that performs in the above quoted statement can be read as, or can be also read, one who makes or determines. We have an echo of the relationship of meaning in the relationship between two English words, perform and form. In this light, the sage's statement is read, a proper woman determines or forms the will of her husband, implying that if the woman is proper, if she has rectified herself to the extent she reflects divine will completely and has purified herself of the a priori feminine tendency to exaggerate the feminine drive to manifest divinity in the material world, she can and should impose her will upon her husband. This idea is alluded to by the fact that the word for proper can also be read like Sarah, indicating that a woman who is righteous as the matriarch Sarah can and should influence the will of her husband, just as God commanded Abraham to obey Sarah's superior prophetic vision. The proof text for this notion is the verse, a woman of value is the crown of her husband. The contextual meaning is that the good wife is an ornament for her husband, but since a crown sits on top of the head, just as the faculty of will figuratively sits atop the intellect, the verse alludes to how the woman and her will becomes her husband's will. What emerges from this, when the abuse of feminine energy, signified by misbehavior of sota, endangered by an overindulgence of wine, is rectified, as signified by the Nazarite who abstains for a period of time from wine. It ascends to the level of Erichanfen, the will, and this thus is transformed into the will of Erichanfen. That is the will of the husband.
Okay, next there is a passage, an incident from the Talmud, which appears to reflect badly on women. And here, he turns the whole thing around, and looks at it in just a whole deeper meaning. Okay, go ahead.
Perhaps the idea is alluded to in the following passage from the Talmud. Ula was once at the house of Rabbi Nachman. They ate a meal, and Ula said grace, and he handed the cup of benediction to Rabbi Nachman. After drinking some of it, Rabbi Nachman said to him, please send a cup of benediction to my wife, Yalta. Ula replied to him, thus said Rabbi Yochanan, the fruit of a woman's body is blessed only from the fruit of man's body, since it says, he will also bless the fruit of your body. It does not say the fruit of her body, but the fruit of your body.
So that says, knows you have the cup for Birkas Muslim, for benching, the cup of wine. The guy who leads the benching drinks some of it, and then might pass it around to other people, take a sip of the cup of blessing, kos shel bracha. And then he said, send it. Yeah, he says, send it to my wife, who's the hostess. And the guest says it's not necessary because when you drink it, she's blessed through you. The woman is, it says, the It'll be in the Parsha in a few weeks, in about a month. We also have it in the after Shabbos. We read it. She's blessed through you. You drink it, and she gets the blessing too. And then he brings a brisa. It has been taught similarly. Go ahead, Jim.
Whence do we know that the fruit of a woman's body is only blessed from the fruit of a man's body? Because it says, he will also bless the fruit of your body. It does not say the fruit of her body, but the fruit of your body. Thus, Ula implied, once you have drunk from the cup, there's no need to send it to her. Meanwhile, Yalta, having overheard this exchange, got up in a passion, went to the wine cellar, and broke 400 jars of wine. Rabbi Nachman said to Ula, let the master of the world send her another cup. He sent it to her with a message. All that wine that you wasted can be counted as a benediction. She sent back her answer, as gossip comes from peddlers, vermin comes from rags. Such a statement befits someone like you.
Okay, now he's going to give a whole deeper explanation into this.
All right. Yalta, Rabbi Nachman's wife, was from aristocratic lineage and thus resented Allah's slighting by not sending her a cup of blessing after grace. Ula was apparently operating on the assumption that since most women have not rectified themselves, they should rightly receive God's blessing versus their husband, reflecting how they should look to them for spiritual guidance. Yalta, however, took this as an insult and expressed this by smashing 400 kegs of wine, indicating to the menfolk that they were implying that they should not insinuate that she had not rectified her relationship with wine. Rather, she was capable of intoxicating herself with the wine of Torah, the Torah's inner dimension, and thereby expressed her full rectified femininity, since when wine enters a person, their hidden essence is revealed. She therefore deserved to drink from the cup of blessing herself. She smashed 400 casks of wine in order to indicate that she had indeed ascended to the level of Arhampin and was therefore worthy of inheriting 400 worlds of desires that issue from this level of divine consciousness.
Worlds of Desire means Eris Chayfetz. I don't know how to translate that. So she said that she was at the level, the high level that we said before, who could determine her husband's will. She herself had the wine of Torah, the Torah's inner dimension. Does it say why 400?
No. We've had 410 throughout the lesson. I don't know.
Or the 400 is probably the Yud Ke Vav Ke, the four
Right.
Yuds.
Yeah. And then you add 10
No,
more.
just 400. Here we're talking
Yeah.
about 400. She broke 400.
Right.
That is remarkable. He doesn't write where this comes from. I doubt that he doesn't write where it comes from.
That's the spelling out. Okay.
That is incredible. Alan, where do we go next week?
I think we're back in the main volume. And I can't hear him.
Next week, 7:17, he says.
Okay.
7:17. They can't hear you. Okay. So thank you all. We should be back on track the next few weeks. I don't see any reason not to. But